Sounds like, Tom, there may be a immigration reform bill out there. Of course, the Senate passed one last June. And it sounds like Speaker Boehner wants to do more of a piecemeal deal in his bill. What are your thoughts?
Well, it looks like they're going to try something, which is really interesting, even though the militant wing of the party is dead set against it. And there are two imperatives here. The first is that the president has asked for a year of action, and the Republican caucus this morning said, all right, yeah, let's have a year of action. They can't be seen as opposing action of any kind. It goes back to the point we've made here about how they got to start standing for something and not against everything. So they have to be seen working on this stuff. The other thing is that the Republican Party, as we've said, faces a simple mathematics problem where if they don't do something to attract people of color and Latinos, they are putting themselves out of business. There are 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country who might as well be taxpayers. If we could get them signed up and get them on the rolls and get them to kick in a little money to help fund Social Security and keep the roads paved, it would be better for everyone.
Why not?
You know, what's wrong with that? Only the outliers in the Republican Party seem to think this is a terrible idea. Even Cantor today signaled that he doesn't think this is the worst thing in the world. So it looks like something is going to happen. But what it does to the state of the caucus and to what extent the militant outliers, go berserk and can't be satisfied, it's a different question.
And so
doesn't matter.
What is Speaker Boehner to do, Rich?
Well, I think Speaker Boehner, and we saw this when he took on the Tea Party in the Murray-Paul Ryan vote, I think he's looking in many respects right now for a legacy as Speaker. He doesn't just want to be the Speaker who spent his entire time trying to propitiate the kind of Tea Party bloodline in his party. I think in many respects it's similar to Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich came in, ran a very conservative platform in '94, but then he started working with Bill Clinton on a lot of things, and as a result, some of the Republican caucus on the right kind of peeled off, and some actually tried to rebel against him for saying that he worked too much with the Democrats. I think that's what John Boehner's looking at. Look politically, for John Boehner, this is not a good thing. First of all, he has Eric Gurr running against him in the primary in Ohio. Freedom Works and a lot of these conservative organizations, which do not like John Boehner, are going to put a lot of money into his primary opponent to make him spend a lot more time back home in Ohio. Not that he's necessarily going to lose, but just the fact that it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be embarrassing if he gets less than 60% in his own district and went 65% for Mitt Romney last time. And they also, assuming the Republicans continue to keep control of the House, and I think that's 99% certainty right now, but as close to 100% certainty as you can get, he has the possibility of the Tea Party of enough Tea Party members not voting for him for Speaker, and he will not be Speaker anymore. He'll be a backbencher. So this does not help him politically, but as I say, I think John Boehner is looking for some sort of a legacy. I don't think he wants to be seen as one of a long line of speakers who, speakers like David Henderson, for example, who was Speaker for 6 years, but does anyone remember who David Henderson was?
I don't. Let me ask you guys, I want to ask you convince me. Let me ask you, do you think in this year we will have a bill for the president to sign, an immigration bill? Can the House come up with something, House Republicans can come up with something that Democrats will vote for it, and then will the House and Senate agree on it, and will the president like it? So, Tom, let's start out with you. Why not? Will there or will not be a immigration reform bill in 2014? Go ahead.
The answer to all your questions is yes. The House will pass immigration legislation. It will go to conference with the Senate, and they'll have a successful compromise bill, which the president will sign. The Democrats dare not oppose this just because it makes the Republicans incrementally more attractive to the electorate. The Democrats have been pushing for this for years and years, and here comes their best shot. The House vote will have to include a majority of Democrats and probably about half to three quarters of the Republican caucus, but eventually, yes, it'll pass. And believe me, the Republicans want this because it is key to their taking back the Senate, which they intend to do this fall. And they have a lot of people up for votes in states like Texas, where you have an immigrant population that at least influences people who can vote. So you got to go through with it.
Very interesting. Of all the things the president talked about. Okay, Rich Rubino, yes or no?
Yeah, this will be the one, I think, flagship piece of legislation for the year that will pass, but I think it will be very scaled down, very incremental, specifically tailor-made so that the Republicans running for election, a lot of these people have Tea Party primary challenges right now. People like Bud Schuster in Pennsylvania, for example, can say they have to be able to have a legislation that these Republicans can go back to their constituents, specifically very conservative constituents in conservative districts, so some of the most conservative people in the nation, and they have to go back and say this is not amnesty, say we're bringing them to the back of the line, and they have to be somewhat believable in that, so it's going to be very, very incremental. And you also have the problem, by the way, of the Democrats. Now, I think in the House of Representatives, I think most Democrats are going to vote for it. There's only 14 blue dogs left. And of those 14, 3 of them aren't running for re-election, so they have the liberty to vote for it. In the Senate,
Okay,
though,
Rich.
they need to get 60 votes. So the short answer is yes, but very scaled down, very. It's not going to be major, but this will be the flagship piece of legislation Obama will pass this year.
You've convinced me. It's definitely. I think it will be very incremental, if anything. And my question to you guys, to follow up on what Rich just said, is, how do you balance giving the dreamers, a pathway to citizenship and sending people behind in the back of the line? How do you balance that out in a bill that works and cuts down on some of the issues that we've been having as a country on illegal immigration?
Well, the Republican Party holds the answer in their own hand. They can put themselves out of business the quick way or the slow way. The slow way is to avoid the dreamer agenda, as it were, and keep demonizing the 11 million and find themselves a tiny minority of angry older white men. The other way to do this is to, as Rich says, do incremental legislation which gets you more voters than it loses. You got to do the math. For every enraged 65-year-old far-gone blogger writing about conspiracies who hates the whole idea, there are probably 2 or 3 young Latino entrepreneurs in states like Texas and New Mexico who can be convinced that perhaps this is a party of opportunity. So, man, I'd make that trade. I think you have to risk making the trade. Otherwise, you go down like the Titanic.
Oh, very interesting. Go ahead, Rich.
One problem the Republicans do have, though, is a lot of, specifically, if you look at some of the polls, Latino voters are the most enthusiastic about the Affordable Care Act, for example. So you wonder if a lot of, for example, undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants become citizens, will they vote Democrat just for the pure reason of the Affordable Care Act? They also tend to be a lot more sympathetic to government social services, so it could be kind of a double-edged sword for the Republicans in that respect. But I will say this for the Republicans, in terms of trying to get moderate Republicans, independents, weak Democrats to their cause, being seen as intolerant certainly does not help their cause at all. So, but it is a trade-off in many respects. And you also have the possibility of, in 2016, and this is somewhat remote, but you do have the possibility of some Tea Party folks walking out of the convention. I mean, you saw that there has been history of that where the party was just unreconcilable. For example, in 1948. Over the civil rights issue, a lot of the
states' rights,
Western conservatives and states' rights people moved to states' rights people literally at the convention said good day and walked out.
Wow,
it's a remote possibility, but it is something to have some trepidation.
But again, it's math. If you can afford to lose that 10 or 15% of the party, but you think you can win the presidency with a Rubio on the ticket, or the mayor of San Antonio, whose name I sadly dropped, but is a dynamic young Republican. I mean, there are people out there that you can use to build a bigger tent. And the central problem with Tea Partyism is it's not ever a bigger tent. It's a smaller and smaller tent, which excommunicates people all the time. It's the kind of thing Ronald Reagan would be horrified by, because it's not how you win elections or build coalitions or get anything done. And that's what the party is up against now.